Okay, welcome back to AD 128. This is the last installment of this 4-day seminar. This is on treatment planning. So let's get right on to it now that you know how to do progress notes and you understand that you have your psychosocial. And from your psychosocial, you have your treatment plan, your initial treatment plan, and your initial treatment plan needs to reflect what is in the psychosocial. So when you have a psychosocial next to you and your treatment plan next to your psychosocial, these two should come together. I should be able to look at the treatment plan, or you should be able to look at the treatment plan and sit there and say, oh, this is what the client's about, this is what you're dealing with. If it doesn't happen, it's out of compliance. Okay, so, the treatment plan. Boom. Core functions, domain number 2. This is your treatment plan, all right? So the first thing, how to write one. All right, so always write in the third person. Always write in the third person, okay? Now, when I say always write in the third person, this is what I mean. Client states, I am having a bad day today. Quote, I am having a bad day today, unquote. Therapist queried client, could you please explain what you mean by a bad day? Right? Notice the words I'm using. Client stated, therapist stated, or counselor stated, whatever you refer yourself to. Always write in the third person. Don't say, Jack said, and you're going to see some progress notes that sit there and say, oh, that's fine. It's not fine. It's not professional. Okay? Every class that I've ever had on progress note writing, every seminar I ever went to on how to do progress notes, clinical work, always emphasize third person, right? That's professional writing. Client stated, clinician stated. It's going to sound really horrible, especially if you have something like client stated that he had to go to the store the other day, and his client went to the store. He saw his drug dealer. Client stated that he did not really want to engage the drug dealer, so the client went in another route. I mean, you're going to client, right? Same thing with clinician. It's okay. Put it in there just like that. Don't ever use your name. So always write in the third person. Right? Understand the problem list. The problem list. Understand. Part of your treatment plan is the problem. This is your first thing. We'll have problem. And then on the Medi-Cal, which is the common treatment plan, which you all have in your possession, you'll see 8 problems listed. It starts with drug problems, and then medical, and then legal, and then psychosocial environment. It goes all the way down, 8 different problems. Understand that list. Now, when you write your treatment plan, you're going to start from number 1. Right? And you have to address everything in that treatment plan. So once you're done your psychosocial, you're going to have 8 different domains in the psychosocial. First domain that you're going to look at in the treatment plan is drug and alcohol use. So you put 1 in the little column that says number. It'll be 1. And then you put down, you may not have to put down drug and alcohol use. Some of them demand that you put it down, some of them don't. But so long as you got the number there, the number corresponds with the number above. It does not correspond with the line or anything else. What if the person's polysubstance, cocaine and alcohol, right? Or trisubstance, cocaine, alcohol, and marijuana. You have to address each of those. So you have problem 1, cocaine use. Then you describe the rest of it, and, your rest of your statements that we'll talk about. And problem 1. Again, you put 1. You could put 1A, 1B. Cocaine, Problem 1C, alcohol, right? So understand the problem list. Understand how it works. Understand what each of those words mean. Especially when they start talking about environment. What do they mean by that type of environment? You should know. All right. The next thing, the problem must be listed numerically. As I said, on the top, you're going to have the problems. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have to be listed in that order. If a problem does not show, let's say problem 4, whatever problem 4 is on the treatment plan. If problem 4 does not show, that's okay. If it's not in the psychosocial, problem 1, problem 2, problem 3, problem 5, problem 6, problem 8. Maybe 3 and 7 didn't show up, right? Now, sometimes on a clinical director, they'll say, no, you got to address all of them, all 8 problems. So problem 1, this, problem 2, this, problem 3, and A does not apply. Problem 4, this, problem 5, this, problem 6, and A. Problem 7, this, problem 8, this. You can do that, right? But they have to be numerically listed in order. One line through errors with the error and initial. I'll roll this up and show you what I mean by that. All right? Let's say this word was spelled wrong. Let's say the word error was spelled that way, E-R-O-R-S. All you have to do is this. One line through it, one line, and then you initial it, and then right next to your initial, you date it. 5/8/19. And somewhere else underneath it, you write the correct spelling. And you move on. Okay? So you need to initial it, you need to date it, and then you need to put the correct spelling, and you move on. One line. All right? What I don't want to see ever, 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 and I've seen this already in some of the work, is something that looks like this. This word is spelled wrong, and then you write E-R-R-O-R-S, and then you initial it, and then you date it. No. No, 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 no. Very unprofessional, very incorrect. The chart will be put out of compliance, and you'll have to redo the entire note. But you can't pull this out of the chart once it's in there, so you need to put a note on top of the note, or a treatment plan on top of this treatment plan. So if the patient signs it once, and the patient's not back for another week, and that chart was due today, and they're not going to be back till next week, guess what you just did? You put the chart out of compliance for this, and it will be out of compliance, right? So please, one line through the errors. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get the last one. My apologies. Okay, yeah, one line through the errors. Is there another one underneath that? Yes. Goals must be measurable and short term. Long term can be used, but use only 30 days maximum. So what we're doing here, what you have to understand is that what we're doing here is for your treatment plans, you must have your goals stated, right? They have to be measurable. They have to be short-term. They cannot be long-term goals. They must be short-term goals, right? Short-term goals are less than 30 days, right? If you're using long-term goals in your treatment plan, then they cannot last past 30 days. Okay. Your action steps. Part of your treatment plan are your action steps. Your action steps must be measurable. They have to be measurable. In other words, times 30 days, times 10 days, times 5 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 5. They have to be measurable, right? If they're not measurable, it's out of compliance. Everything has to be time-oriented. Everything has to be measurable, okay? Client will resolve this problem in 30 days. However you want to word it, it has to be measurable. All right. So, treatment plan is the process in which you, the counselor, and the client identify and rank problems needing resolution, needing to be fixed. Okay? Establish agreed upon immediate and long-term goals, and decide on the treatment methods and the resources to be used. Okay? This is a must. It is the process in which you, the counselor, and the client identify and rank the problems. You have to identify them and you have to rank them in severity from worst the most difficult to the least difficult, all right? So they have to be in there, they have to be ranked. They have to be agreed upon. So one of the things with the treatment plan is you never want to do a treatment plan in isolation. You should always have the treatment plan done with the client right there with you. Never ever do a treatment plan without a client being there. Never write a treatment plan and have a client sign it. Never put a blank treatment plan in there with just your signature or a blank treatment plan with the client's signature that you're going to fill it in later. It is unethical. It is not to be done at all. Okay? So decide on the treatment methods and the resources to be used. The resources to be used, is it group? Is it individual? Is it inpatient? Is it a hospital? What is it? What's going to be used? Okay. So failing to plan is planning to fail. Failing to plan is planning to fail. If you do not plan to do a treatment plan, you're going to have some difficulties and some issues, right? And you also have to plan a treatment plan because it has to be goals that are attainable, reasonable, and measurable. If they're not attainable within a short amount of time, if they're not reasonable, that the patient understands them, and they're not measurable within that allotted time, the treatment plan is no good. So you've got to sit down, you've got to plan this based on the abilities of the patient, based on your abilities as a therapist, and how much you think you get accomplished and when it's going to get accomplished. Okay? Treatment plan follows the assessment process. So once you've done your psychosocial assessment, you have your first treatment plan. The first treatment plan after the psychosocial assessment is called an initial treatment plan. The initial treatment plan is you only good for about 10 days. And then after 10 days, you've got to do your first update treatment plan, which basically is a rewrite of your initial treatment plan with maybe one or two extra things added to it. All right. Again, remember, they have to be reasonable, measurable, time limited, all of them. All right. So both the counselor and the client develop the treatment plan. It is called a collaborative plan. It's collaborative because of both of you working together. If you do not work it together, the treatment plan is usually not going to be very good. Now remember, there are 4 signatures on the treatment plan. Yours, the client, the clinical director, the medical director. Right? That makes it a legal document. So if you're the type of counselor that turns around and writes a treatment plan for the client and poo-poos it and sits there and tells the client, just sign this is your treatment plan, right? And the client signs it and they don't follow what the treatment plan says, technically they can be discharged from the clinic. Now, what good is that going to be for the client? What good is that going to be for you? It's not. Okay? Not a very good thing. All right? So, again, it's got to be collaborative. You both have to buy into it. Okay, treatment planning, of course, serves as both an administrative and a therapeutic function. It's administrative because it's got to be done. Insurance companies want to see it. I want to see it. It's in the chart. It drives the chart. Progress notes are derived from treatment plans. Treatment plans are derived from psychosocials, right? So it's administrative. It's also therapeutic because once you've written the treatment plan and it's agreed upon by the client, and it doesn't, at this point, it doesn't have to be signed by all 4. It helps if it does, but at this point it doesn't. Run it off and give it to the client. Tell them to put it in his wallet or her purse or something and keep it with them at all times. So that way they can always refer to it and work on the plan that they've done. It's that simple, right? So it's collaborative, you work on it together, give them a copy, and then once you've signed it and they've signed it, then you take it to the director to sign, and then you take it to the medical director, or whatever the protocol of the clinic is at that point. But in order for it to go into effect, it has to be time limited, measurable, reasonable, all the goals, all the action steps, measurable, reasonable, time limited, right, short term, and the long-term goal leads to discharge. Okay? An administrative requirement of all licensed treatment facilities is to have an individualized treatment plan for each client. This is very important. A lot of times therapists will get lazy because you've got large caseloads and lots of paperwork. So you make the treatment plans generic. Treatment plans are not to be generic. You cannot do a generic treatment plan. All right? Treatment plans have to be individualized for each client, and treatment plans have to be, again, measurable. They have to be reasonable. They have to be goal-oriented, and they have to be attainable. Attainable, reasonable, goal-oriented, measurable. All right. To be successful, the counselor needs to have a clear understanding of what the program's purpose to accomplish with the client, i.e. the program goals and objectives and the therapeutic intervention to be utilized. Sometimes programs are geared for one or two types of treatment. If it's a methadone maintenance program, then you know what it's geared towards. So you're not going to do cocaine treatment in a methadone maintenance program. So basically, when I take a look at a methadone-based treatment plan, I want to see, what the client's going to do to overcome heroin or pharmaceuticals, barbiturates or opiates or whatever it is. I want to see that. If it's cocaine, I want to see only cocaine. If it's polysubstance, then I want to see a little bit more. I want to see polysubstance, alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, whatever the person's struggling with. But you should always drive it by what the client needs and what's in the biopsychosocial, and also what is the clinic licensed for. If a clinic is licensed only to treat alcohol, that clinic cannot treat marijuana or cocaine. If it's limited, it has to stay within the scope of practice, just like you and me. Okay? If it's just a drug and alcohol clinic is licensed to treat drug and alcohol, with the exception of, and the caveat will be in there, with the exception of methadone maintenance, well, then anything goes. Okay, just be sure, as it says here, to understand what the program's purpose is and to accomplish it. All right. An administrative framework is helpful to organize a client's treatment. Okay, so know what you're doing. Know what you're doing. Understand. Time yourself. Because if you're going to have a lot of clients, you're going to have to pace yourself and pace when these treatment plans are due. If they are there and they're at another time and they're not due at that appropriate time, there are issues involved. So components, there's problem statements, goals, and objectives. These are the components of a treatment plan. What are the problems, what are the goals, and what are the objectives? Okay. So specify the problem. These are problem statements. What is the problem that the treatment program intends to address based on the assessment, the psychosocial assessment? And again, at the top of the treatment plan, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If that's not in there, use that code. Use whatever 1 through 8 is on the treatment plan. Your clinic, your director will tell you what to put up there. But make sure you put in the problems section, you specify what the problem is, either numerically or you put down alcohol dependence since age 10, whatever. Be very specific. What's the problem? What are you going to address? How's that going to be addressed? Okay. The next thing, here's an example of a problem statement. Number 1, and you can't see this, but I'll read it to you. Number 1, AOD, right? That's number 1 on your treatment plan. Client states, quote, I have been using cocaine and alcohol for 10 years. I drink 2 40s a day and 3 rocks of crack a day. Okay? That is your number 1 statement. So in that little box that sits there and says problem, you quote the patient. Don't just put down alcohol and cocaine. What does the patient say? They want to know what the patient says. That way, if you want to hold the patient accountable, you can sit there and say, yeah, but this is what you said. Because some patients will sit there and say, I didn't say alcohol and cocaine. I don't want cocaine in there. I just said alcohol. But if you put a client states and then you quote it, that's clear. Okay? Medical. Medical is number 2. Here's an example. Client has a history of COPD and is presently taking albuterol inhaler. All right? That's your, sounds like a progress note, but it's not. That's the problem under medical. Your next one is legal. Client reports that he is on probation for a DUI. Notice what I'm doing here. I'm quoting the client. Number 4, Drug-using lifestyle. This is always a nebulous one. What do you mean by drug-using lifestyle? Okay, here it is. Client states, I do not have a sober support network and live in the projects. Right? It's a drug-using lifestyle. That's the lifestyle of the projects, right? X project, whatever. Drug-using lifestyle. Psychosocial. Client states that he needs to meet with the mental health counselor to deal with depression. Client states he does not feel safe at his home. Oh, I can put two problems down. Yes, you can, to address one. So that's psychosocial. Psychosocial, he needs to meet with a mental health counselor. Sounds like mental health, but it's a psychosocial issue. And he doesn't feel safe in his house. Right, that's a big issue there. The next one, educational, vocational. All right. Client reports that he does not have a high school education and needs to get a GED. Client is working on his GED and needs to complete his coursework. Doesn't it sound a little bit opposite here? Well, no, because basically the client's saying that he doesn't have a high school education and needs a GED, but he's also working on his GED. So your plan for this, when we get to the plan section, you'll see, is client will continue working on his GED until completed. Right? Next one is employment, number 7. Client reports being unemployed. Okay. And number 8 is discharge. When does discharge start? Discharge starts from day 1. Prepare your client for discharge on the first day. I'm serious. Plan for it. Because if you plan for discharge on day number 9 and the patient is done on day number 10, you're going to have a problem. Because you've got dependency issues, you've got all kinds of stuff that's happening. You start to plan on day 1 and start to say, now I want you to take a look at these goals in respect to you leaving this program. How are these goals and how are these problems going to help you resolve your issues out there so that you don't relapse again? So client is in treatment working towards discharge planning. Okay. So, goals. These are the expected results or conditions stated in relatively broad terms and based on an identified problem. The goal is often the inverse of the problem, leading to positive outcomes. All right? Client is a drug addict. Client uses cocaine and alcohol. Well, the goal will be client will stop by the end of treatment, or within 30 days, treatment will end, and the client will be cocaine-free. There's your goal. That's the goal, right? Is it going to be reached? That's to be seen, right? But the goal is, within 30 days, at the end of treatment, client will be cocaine-free. That's the goal. All right. Example, client will maintain sober lifestyle and reduce use times 30 days. Reduce use times 30 days. Do not write in the treatment plan, client will not use drugs again, period. No. Client will reduce use times 30 days. A lot of times they want to see this crazy thing called harm reduction. All right? So this is harm reduction. This doesn't say he's going to stop using, it says he's going to reduce use times 30 days. Now, does that mean that he's going to reduce use or stop? Well, if you're good, he'll stop. Right? But you also don't want to hang yourself with the client. If reducing the times 30 days is achievable for the client, then you put reduce. If stopping times 30 days is achievable for the client will discontinue use times 30 days. You and the client have to agree upon this. That's what it's all about. Right? Client will obtain a physical within 2 weeks to be assessed in treatment for COPD. If the person has COPD, and they haven't seen a doctor, they need to see a doctor. That's a reasonable goal. It's measurable, 2 weeks, and it's attainable, right? The other thing is that you should be aware of is, according to Medi-Cal, every patient has to have a complete physical within 2 weeks. A complete physical, okay? So that's where this sits. Client will meet with PO as scheduled and follow PO's instructions times 30 days. All right? Again, it's reasonable, it's measurable, and it's attainable. If you notice, 1, 2, 3, these are going in concert with what I described in a couple slides back on your treatment plan, right? You're addressing problem 1, addressing problem 2, addressing problem 3. Okay? Number 4, client will work on looking for new housing or sober living environment times 30 days. Again, it's time related, it's reasonable, and it's measurable. Here's your measurable. And it's reasonable within 30 days. You're not saying tomorrow. Objective action steps. This is a very simple component of the treatment plan, taking the stated problem or condition and converting them into an action statement indicating what needs to be done in order for the goal to be reached. So, number 1, attend 3 groups a week, refusal skills, anger management, and relapse prevention. This is based on what your clinic offers. Right? And you list it like this. Whatever you feel the client needs or whatever the client agrees to, you put down there. So it's a drug and alcohol problem, 3 groups a week. I would like to see 3 groups a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 a.m. to 11:15. That would add to this a lot more measurability. The client will attend 3 groups a week, refusal skills, anger management, and relapse prevention. You can even make it sweeter. Client will attend 3 groups a week, refusal skills on Monday, anger management on Wednesday, and refusal skills on Friday. However you want to do it, reasonable, manageable, measurable, and it fits the program criteria. This is what the program offers. Client will attend 3 groups a week and be on time for each group and complete the assessment on the assignments on time. Again, notice the number. We're still dealing with number 1, right? So these are the groups. And now with this one, the second part of this is the client's going to attend the 3 groups and the client's going to be on time for the groups. Remember, it's a legal document. They're signing this off. Problem number 2. Client will learn about living substance-free by attending 3 groups a week and 1 individual session a week. Again, it states it clearly, it's measurable, it's attainable. Number 3. Client will make an appointment with the physician within 5 days and complete the physical evaluation and obtain treatment within 10 days. Measurable, observable, doable, right? And notice how I'm wording it. Client will make, client will learn, client will attend. Third person, third person, third person. Here's another one. Client will be compliant with doctor's orders. This is a follow-up to number 3. Client will be compliant with doctor's orders. Doctor's meds is prescribed and report any side effects in individual therapy with this therapist weekly. With this therapist weekly, not with me. With this therapist weekly. Again, it's attainable, it's measurable, it's reasonable, right? And it's in third person. This is how you write your progress notes. This is how you write your treatment plans. Here are the references I use. Feel free to take a look at these online or pick them up or something. And hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of how to do a treatment plan. I know it was quick, but at the same time, I did this in class with you in the last mod. This is just a review on it, but you're going to have to do a treatment plan today, right? So you're going to see your patient for the last time. You're going to do a summation note, a summary note for the patient. You're going to do a treatment plan, and you're going to do a discharge summary. Now comes the fun part. You're going to ask me, Doc, what note do I write? What kind of note do I write? Well, here's what you're going to do. You're going to write a SOAP note, S-O-A-P, right? When I come back, I'm going to take a look at the rest of your notes, but for all intents and purposes, whenever you do this, this last note over here, I'd like you to do a SOAP note. Why? Because throughout the course, I've given instructions to as you know, I've given instructions to the proctor on which notes to write for your individual sessions. So some of you have PI notes, some Burke notes, some FERC notes, some SOAP notes, and SOAP note. So I pretty much mixed it up and mixed it around, okay? But for this one, I'd like you all to do a SOAP note. All right, last session. So I want to thank you, for this part, and we'll stop here. Good luck to you. The next one, the final one, you can or don't have to show. It's just a little review of a few things. It's going to be about 2 minutes long. All right. So thanks a lot. Take care. And again, if you choose an ICC, I'm your host, Dr. Tony Scuderi. Have a nice day.